actually realized that my 3rd year of medical school.
Okay.
That was when I took my very first financial literacy class. And it was eye-opening to me because I was the youngest person in the room.
Be the change you want to see. Make a difference by giving your money a purpose, a mission to do good. Welcome to Money with Mission, where we show you how to create passive income so that you have options for how to work and how to live your life while leaving a legacy of positive social impact.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Money with Mission. I have today a friend of mine, Jessica Chandler, Dr. Jessica Chandler, who is a OBGYN surgeon in California, Northern California. We'll leave it at that. And she's a complicated, yeah, she's a complicated person, yes, but she also does complicated surgery. We met through Money with Mission, and I just wanted you guys to hear her story. So here we go. Thanks, Jessica, so much for agreeing to be here.
Not a problem. Thank you for Felicia for the invite.
So good. We actually worked together and didn't even know it for a little while, and then met after I had left Northern California. I've met so many people since I met Northern California that since I left Northern California that I wish I had known while I was there. I might still be there, but you never know.
You can come back.
You never know. I guess we were just talking about that.
Plenty of space.
Listen, we've known each other for probably about a year now, I think, maybe
Yep.
a little bit more.
Maybe a little over a year, if
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So tell everybody, let's get into your background first. So everybody know who you are and just get into that kind of stuff.
Yep.
How did you grow? Just talk about even from growing up to getting into medicine to why OBGYN, all that stuff.
No, great. Yeah. So I was born and raised in Mississippi, South Mississippi. Realized at a pretty early age that I wanted to be in medicine. I have a family member who has epilepsy, and I remember even as a young child, I was with him one day and he had a seizure and it was scary. Like I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what it was. Actually remember going to get my grandmother to let her know. It's like, hey, Uncle Adele is choking because I thought he was choking on something because we were
Okay.
sitting there eating. And then I realized as I got older, I'm like, oh, he was having a seizure then. That's what it was. And so that's actually what piqued my interest in medicine. And I got into medicine, into science and just studying the brain. And I just wanted to understand like what would make someone's body do this.
Hmm.
I thought I was going to be a neurosurgeon because I realized that neurosurgeons help treat people and cure people of epilepsy. And that was what I wanted to do. So my whole intent and purpose of getting into medicine was to be a neurosurgeon so I could cure epilepsy.
Okay. Do you remember how old you were when you first had this realization, not about neurosurgery, but about with your uncle and all that? How old were you?
I was probably like 5 or 6 years old.
Really
I
young.
was very young. I was very young.
Okay.
It was a very impressionable moment
Yeah.
with that. So yeah.
Okay. So
Uh,
you were gonna be a neurosurgeon.
I was gonna be a neurosurgeon and then I did a couple of rotations and hung out with some neurosurgeons and I'm like, oh, this is not what I thought it was. So so we have to find something else to do. And I knew I wanted to go into a surgical field. I actually did not want to be an OBGYN. So one of my mottos is when you don't know what you want to do, at least make a list of things you don't want to do.
Yep.
And being an OBGYN was actually something I did not want to do. But that still small voice that I've gotten used to was just like obstetrics and gynecology. And I knew it wasn't me because that was the thing I didn't want to do.
Yep.
But I'm like, okay, I'm like, I know how this can end if I ignore this little small voice. So I'm just gonna go with it and see what happens. And so got about 2 years into my OBGYN training and realized, no, this is not what I want to do. I do not want to deliver babies. This
Yeah.
is not, this is just not where I get my excitement and get my joy. But I really began to love the field of gynecology and gynecologic surgery and complex GYN surgery. So taking care of women who have an enlarged fibroid uterus and all this complex pathology. And for me, I'm like, yes, this is what I want to do. I want to do this. And so I would ultimately go on after my OBGYN fellowship, after my OBGYN residency, a gynecologic fellowship in complex GYN surgery with robotics. And here we are. And that's what I do here in
Okay.
Northern California.
Okay. So your OBGYN residency is 4 years? 3
4 years,
4
four
years?
years, 4 years.
We have a similar story about OBGYN too. And then you did a 2 more year of robotics or 1 more year? What
I did. I actually did 3 years
3
total.
years?
I
Okay.
did 3 years total. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So my little story about I thought I was gonna be a pediatrician or geriatrics or family practice when I went to medical school. And just like you, like, oh no, this is not and I had a bit of a panic. I was like, oh my goodness, have I spent all this time and I don't even want to do this at all? And then got into the surgery, did OBGYN and really liked it, but didn't want that life. You know, you can look
Mhm,
at what your life's gonna be like down the road. I'm like, oh,
mhm.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And then urology became my thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So your family had lots of money and paid all your school, and then you came out with no problem, with no debt or anything like that. Is that how that looked for you?
Absolutely not. Total opposite. We had no money growing up. As a matter of fact, the older I get and the more I think about and I have these conversations with my mom, I realize how much we did not have. And I
Okay.
actually remember one day calling my mom. I was probably like my late 20s, early 30s, and I called her. I said, "Mom, said we were poor growing up." And she said, "You just not realize that?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She's like, "Well, if you just not realizing that, then I did a wonderful job."
Mhm.
I said, "You did a fantastic job.
Yeah. Yeah.
You did a fantastic job." So yeah, so no, there was not any money there.
So, but what did you said you didn't realize you were poor. So what did you think about money, or did you think about money as a child?
I want to say I thought about it because the way I looked at money was what you needed to, you know, pay the house note, pay for food, pay for clothing. And money was really the thing that you used to pay for the goods and the services that you needed. And
Okay.
that was my concept of money. And if you didn't have it, you went somewhere and you borrowed it.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I was fortunate enough that my first 4 years of college were paid for off of scholarships and grants. Next round of schooling, medical school, not so much. And that was really when I don't want to say I learned about loans because I knew nothing about student. All I
Mhm.
knew was that I clicked the button, I got a sheet of paper one day that said, "You need this much money to go to school. Sign here. We will give you this money and you will pay us back." Okay. And that was it. I didn't know about loans and interest and compound and like all of these things. So I had zero knowledge as I was going into this process. I just knew that I needed money
Yeah.
to pay my tuition for medical school. I was I'm like, I'm going to make money as a physician and I will pay this money back and I will pay
Yeah.
this loan back. And that
Yeah.
was what I knew when I was signing those promissory notes.
So you said a thing back before with when your childhood, when you used money was to buy, it was to take care of us, our food, our
Mhm.
housing, our things. And we didn't have, if you didn't have enough money to do that, we went and borrowed it. You said, did you mean you borrowed money? You borrowed the stuff you got, how did, whatever.
We borrowed the money.
Okay.
You borrowed the money, you paid it back.
And
Yeah.
was that like in a family borrowing, or did you go to a bank, or how did that work?
Banks, some what I now know now is like the check cashing and loan
Mhm,
places,
mhm, mhm,
etcetera.
mhm, mhm.
But again, at the time when you're a child, you're not realizing that this is what's going on.
Oh,
All you know
100%.
is a couple times a month, we go here, we go in here, mom turns over a check
Yep.
and again, I've got food, I've got clothes, I've got a roof over my head. I'm I don't know what's going on in the background. I don't know the backdrop.
Well, what to me, I think you may have learned was resourcefulness. Like, we don't have a resource and we need to get it. And you saw that, well, we can get it. It is just, and you didn't understand all the background, just like you said, but you realized that not having something didn't keep you from doing something.
Right.
You figured out how to get the thing you needed to make the thing happen.
Exactly.
Now you're in medical school, or now you're in college, you want to go to medical school. I need to get this money some kind of way. You became resourceful and you got the money. Whether you understood it or not, that's beside the point right now. But you needed money to do a thing, and you learned how to do that in your childhood. You got what you wanted, and probably I'm gonna say because becoming a physician was actually something I needed to do at some point. You know what I mean? It becomes
Yeah.
actually a need,
Yeah.
and you got that. You did that. Now you got through all that. Your residency, your 3 years of fellowship. Now you're a rock star. I know how to do the hardest surgeries there are to do using a robot. Is your first job in Northern California?
So I actually stuck around. So I did my training. I finished my fellowship training in Seattle.
Okay.
And I stayed in Seattle for about a year at the hospital that I trained at and I did my fellowship.
Okay.
So I was there with them for a short bit of time, and then I came down to Northern California for what I thought was going to be a temporary job, and
Mm.
I honestly wanted to be here for a small contract, a short period of time, and then I wanted to go back to Seattle. There was this little virus called
Uh,
coronavirus, and it just kind of disrupted things. And I'm like, well, I think I'm gonna stay here for a little while longer.
how long was so when you came for the temporary? I didn't know this about you. How now we get into your business. How long were you thinking you were going to be here?
The contract was for 6 months.
Oh, really?
It was a 6-month contract. I was probably 3 or 4 months in, and just so happens the day that I started my temporary contract, I met someone that I knew from fellowship, and they asked me what I was doing and if I wanted to stick around and stay in the area and join them and work
Okay.
with them.
Okay. All right. So now you're Northern California. When did you realize the amount of debt or the amount of money that you had accumulated in accomplishing what you had got?
Interestingly enough, I actually realized that my 3rd year of medical school.
Okay.
That was when I took my very first financial literacy class.
Okay.
And it was eye-opening to me because I was the youngest person in the room.
Okay.
And I'm looking around in this financial literacy class, and this person is talking about getting out of debt and how you save and invest and set things aside for retirement and debt management. And I'm in my 20s and I'm in the room with people that are 40, 50 years old. And I'm like, you all are closer to retirement than I am.
Mm.
And this is new information for you. And it was eye-opening to me because I realized, okay, wait, we're missing something. A lot of us are missing things when it comes to financial literacy and financial education. And I then went back and actually talked to my financial aid advisor in med school. And I'm like, so let's talk about this sheet of paper that I sign every 6 months and the money that gets dumped into my account. And how gonna pay this back in this interest rate and all these different things. And I learned how to budget because no one had ever taught me how to actually make and create a budget. And I began to kind of look back at expenses and calculate things. And the first thing that I did with this new knowledge is I told my financial aid advisor, I said, I need about $20,000 less than what you all are giving me
Mhm,
every
mhm,
year. And
mhm.
so I slashed $20,000 off of how much I was borrowing every year. And so that saved me
A
$40,000
lot. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the long run, which once you compound that interest, that probably saved me a couple of $100,000.
Tell me about the financial literacy class. What made you do that? Was that part of that sounds like it wasn't part of the curriculum.
It wasn't part of the curriculum. It was something that was being offered through local church that I was attending. And
Gotcha.
I just said, hey, let's go learn something.
Okay. All right. And so you that gave you the impetus to go and find out about the loan that you had to realize, okay, I need to look at this a little differently and not just I mean, you're happy you have the money, of course, but they were loading you up with more than you needed
Exactly.
that was going to do the things loans do for you.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. And then so you started learning about money a little bit and talk about your money education along the way. I know you've had quite a few people that have come in to help and talk to you about money.
Yes, that was kind of the start. So I realized, like, okay, let's set a budget, let's cut back. Yes, you have this big pile of debt and loans that you're going to have to pay back. And I'm looking at it very differently now. But at the same time, I'm like, well, you got to start investing, and you can't wait until you pay off all of this debt until you start investing, because investing is saving money. Like you've got to start saving money
Yeah.
for the future so that when you need something, you're having to take out another loan.
Okay.
And so that was kind of the turning point where it's like, okay, let's begin to do things different. Let's begin to look at this differently. And so by the time I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm in a position, I'm ready to do that. I was a second year resident,
Okay.
and I'll never forget. I was a second year resident. I was coming off of a night shift because I was working nights. And with one eye open, I went in and I talked to this guy at this investment bank. And I said, I need you to open up I need to open up an investment account, and I
Okay.
need to set it up so that every paycheck, $50 comes out of my paycheck.
Okay. How much were you making back then? Do you remember?
I don't. Resident salary, like
Yeah.
life was, if I can go back to having rent was $400 a month, and that included utilities, everything. My landlord never raised the rent.
Okay.
Life was great. But I knew that I could spare $50. I'm like, I can
Yeah.
spare $50.
Yeah.
$50.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. And that was my first investment account.
And that was investing in stocks, bonds. What was that
It
investment? You know?
it was purchasing, it was mutual funds. So it was I opened up a Roth.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. From a financial literacy course at church to how many, like, is that 2 years, 3 years
Yeah.
into 2 years into your residency? So you're in med school. Now you've got a Roth opened, $50 a month out of our little residency salary, and delaying gratification even longer, even though it sounds like you felt, did you really decrease your lifestyle in residency by putting $50 a month away for investing?
Not really, and I think the reason why I didn't is because, like, extravagant things it just wasn't a part of who I was. Like, growing up, we didn't have a lot of excess, we didn't have a lot of extravagant things. There was 1 car, like, you had the clothes that you needed,
Yeah.
you had 1, maybe 2 pair of shoes. There wasn't a lot of excess, so that wasn't something that I was used to.
Okay.
So it just didn't feel like, "Oh, this is the thing I need to go and do now that I'm making money as a resident," although it's not a lot, but still
Yeah.
some, and
Yeah.
yes, that residency stipend kinda increases a couple hundred or whatever every year. It just wasn't enough for me that I'm like, "Oh, I can go out and buy all these extra things."
Okay. Okay. All right. So you have a Roth as a resident. So you're thinking of retirement at that point, or were you thinking of cash flow? How are you thinking about money at that point?
I think, again, I was still kinda in that space of, you need to be saving money.
Okay. So a savings.
It's just
Okay.
like you just need to be saving money, but not necessarily money in like a bank account where you can go in and say, "Give this to me." Like,
Mm.
it is locked away. The point of this
Yeah.
is to sit here and grow. This
Okay.
is not the money that I'm going to use to like pay for the vacation or pay for that trip. No, this money goes away. I think it was good for me to have it come straight out of my paycheck so that I didn't even miss it. It never hit my bank account.
Yep. 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 Got it. Got it. Okay. So you and I met, like I said, probably a year ago, and you called. I don't know if you, how did you find Money with Mission?
A friend of mine,
Okay.
another friend that you work with. Yeah, she was
That's right.
telling me about some of the things that she was doing with you, and me being the person that I am. I'm like, "Oh, we need to have her over at the house. Let's get some chicken wings. Let's just sit
Yep.
down and
Yep.
kick it." And, that's what we that's what we did.
That's what we did. That's right. That's right. That is right. I forgot. I thought we'd met the first time on the phone, but no, we met the first time face
Nope,
to face at your
nope,
house.
at
That's
my
right.
house, because 'cause I'm like, "We all gotta eat." And I'm like, and if she like chicken wings,
I'm about to
great.
talk about you because you were going to cook, and then it came to what kind of chicken wings do you want? We sat out in the back. I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just like, "You know what? These people down the road fry these kinda chicken wings. Let's go get them. We just go
It was
pick up some
good.
chicken." It was
It
good.
was good.
And that was it.
That was, yep. That was it. You should see Jessica's garden. It's beautiful.
Yes.
This girl has some resiliency in a lot of different ways. And it's really exciting. Okay. So as of now, so you and I have talked, we've talked as friends, we've talked as Money with Mission, we've talked all different kinds of ways. What kind of investing have you done since we met?
Yeah, so since we've met, I have gotten into real estate and property investment. And I know that real estate is such a big category, but was able to, with another family member who's also into real estate, purchase a property that had a tax lien against it. And so this individual, they were back owed on their taxes. They were just going to let the property go. And we kind of went in and talked to him, said, hey, what would you be willing to sell this to us for? They named a price. We took them up on it, and we just turned around and basically flipped that property and sold it to someone for cash. And now we're just setting up and just doing little projects like that.
Talk about, you made it sound like it was such an easy thing, and yes, it was easy. We had a couple conversations around that,
We did.
right?
We did.
So talk about the worry, the concern, what made it so that you were able to move forward with that?
Gotcha. No, so I think the thing that made it easier to move forward with that was just good understanding principles now about money that I hadn't previously. So
Okay.
now I'm making more money now as an attending physician. And now it's like, okay, do you really need to go out and buy this big fancy luxury car and buy this big fancy house and have this big mortgage? No, a used car is fine, a normal size house, something that's within reason. And so I begin to live within my means, and the amount of money that I have going out is not as much as it could be. And so now I have this excess. I'm like, okay, let's set this aside. Let's save this. Well, what am I saving it for? Well, I'm saving it for that if an investment opportunity comes along, because now as a result of conversations with you, conversations that I've had with others along the way, I know that another opportunity and a way to get some cash flow to have additional financial resources is in real estate. Well, let me save some of my money. So I begin to save and set it aside. And this opportunity comes along and I'm like, okay, do we want to bite at this? Do we want to dip into the fund? Do we want to dip into our savings? Do we want to tap into some of these investment accounts? And you and I kind of had those conversations and about how we can do this, and I kind of learned the benefit of using other people's money.
Uh-huh.
You and a few other people have taught me about that, and I'm like, okay, how can we make this work? And we did. We were
Yeah.
able to make it work, and here we are.
Were you nervous? Were you afraid? Were you talk about your emotions around doing the deal?
I would There was definitely a lot of emotion because if you look at that price tag, you look at, okay, this money's going where? I'm doing what with this money? And how is it going to come back to me? I don't know. What if we can't sell this property? What if I'm stuck
It
with
might
this
not,
house?
right?
It might not sell. What am I going to do if this does not work out the way I think is going to?
Mhm.
And it was a calculated risk. And one of the things that you taught me and from our conversations is like, okay, can you cover this? Can you cover this loss? Will you be okay if this deal falls flat on its face and you lose everything that you put into it? And I'm like, yes, I will still be okay. And it's like, okay,
And the upside looked really good.
the
So
upside look exactly. The
the
upside looked good. I knew that I would be okay, even if it went belly up. And I'm like, well, let's take a leap. And we did.
okay. And that turned out, I was excited to hear about how that turned out. That was
Yes.
really nice. Okay.
Yes.
Do you wanna share or do you wanna leave that to the side?
Uh, we'll leave it to the side.
Okay. All right.
But it did turn out well.
Turned out really well in a short amount of time. And it is a
Yes.
matter of getting through that fear and the concern and how am I gonna do this and learning, thinking through the pivots.
Yes.
Because that's, you always want to exit strategy. When you're walking into an investment, what are my exit strategies? How am I going to get out of this thing? Best case scenario, worst case scenario, middle road scenarios. We talked through all that kind of stuff. And then we had a really good scenario. Nice. Okay. So right now you're saving and getting your capital stack, making sure you have money to invest when opportunities come by. What are your overall goals with investing? And that's kind of more of a philosophy investing. Are you looking for cash flow? Are you looking for appreciation? Are you looking for how are you looking at that?
You know, that I think it changes with each opportunity. And how I view investing, yes, there's the we're putting money into this project with the hopes of getting a financial return on our investment. And I think this actually kind of goes back to how you and I really began to talk more and how I reached out because with Money with Mission, I was seeing the things that you were doing in your area with the grocery store and just
Mhm,
bringing in produce. And for me, I'm like, that is a different type of investing from what I was initially taught with the
mhm,
financial literacy courses. It really was like the title of the podcast says, is money with mission. It's like I'm going to put money into this with the goal of it making a social impact.
mhm,
And so now I feel like I am doing just as much of the investing where it's like, okay, I'm making investments now so that I can either have cash flow so that that gives me more freedom and flexibility with time, or I'm making investments so that later on when I don't want to go in and work and do these complex surgeries, I can still have financial resources to
mhm,
support myself.
mhm,
But I'm also doing those types of social impact investing. And whether that is me investing into a nonprofit that is building a medical clinic in a third world country so that the people in those rural villages can have access to healthcare, can have access to clean water. I'm also making investments in people where it's
mhm,
like, okay, you are someone that I see potential in you and you need help. You need resources. So I am going to invest, it's a small amount to me, but I know it means the world to them because it gives them the opportunity to continue to go forward so that they can make a contribution in society. And I think the reason why that's my goal and my mission and my philosophy with investing is because not only have I seen that modeled for me, but also I have been the beneficiary of that.
mhm.
So, one of the individuals who actually taught me a lot about managing and my money and saving and investing was the CEO of a company that he had owned, and he and his wife made a point to set aside 10% of their profits from their
Okay.
company,
Mhm,
and they would invest it in their local community as they met other people along the way and they felt kind of like, okay, this is someone that we want to invest into. They would do that financially, and I was the recipient of that. This individual and their wife and his wife, they just said, they had met me when I was in high school and knew me throughout high school, and they said, we just think you've got this bright future ahead of you and we want to help and we want to be a part of that. And so every semester without fail, there would be a line item on my tuition statement and it was a scholarship from him and his wife.
uh-huh,
With that, like, just you just keep on doing what you're doing. Here's us giving you a small token. And they would do that, and they continued, and when I got older, and when I say older, and graduated from med school and residency, and now I'm out in fellowship, he would still check in and he would say, "How's it going? How are you doing? Because I know you're still not making that big doctor money yet. Is there anything that you need? What can I help you with?" And with that piece of advice on, well, here's a way that you can manage your financial resources in this stage of life. With that came, and here's a check so that you can begin to put towards some of your debt. And that individual actually helped me pay off my very first car.
I love this story. I've heard it before. It gives me chills every time. And I love that you're paying it forward. I love that you talk about in donating. Instead of using that word donate, you talk about investing because we know that what money we put somewhere, we put it out in the world in a cause we believe in, it is going to bring returns, whether it's money returns, social returns, people who don't have to worry about where to go to hospital or where to get their medical care. I mean, what does that free your mind up for? It's like for me, when you can know where you can go and get fresh food, your mind is freed of a whole bunch of stuff.
Yes.
Now it makes you much more creative
Yeah.
than makes everybody else's life so much better because this one thing was taken care of for you.
Yes.
I love that story and good job, Jessica. That's like sometimes we get our stuff and we forget where it came from and don't you're like, no, we can't forget. You pay it forward. That's what that guy saw in his wife. That's what they
Yeah.
saw. This is not a person that's gonna end right here. This is gonna be a long-term thing. Tell me, how has Money with Mission helped you?
Well, the way it's helped is it's like when I was getting ready to buy that first property and I was scared. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Like, can I do this? What next? Providing a sounding board and a resource and people to talk to where I can just kind of present these situations as they
Mhm.
come, but also just having the opportunity to hear the stories of other people who also maybe they didn't have this pedigree, this financial pedigree where there were people there just saying, here's this
Yeah,
check, go and do this. But just hearing others' stories, ideas and creativeness and just learning ways like I had no clue about investing in real estate and the real estate opportunities really until I began to follow you with Money with Mission and just to realize it's like, okay, this is something that I can do. And no, I don't have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it. Like just a small amount could actually get me started. And it was just that access to knowledge and resource. It was just like when I took that financial literacy class when I was in
yeah.
my 3rd year of medical school, it was like, this is just access to knowledge that I did not have. Money with Mission has given me access to knowledge that I did not previously have. One of the other things that you have taught me is just the importance of time and that my time is also valuable and how, I can always make more money, but I can't create more time. And that has probably been one of the things that has helped make decisions on how I invest my money and where I put it. Because if I know that if I put my financial resources into this bucket and it grows and it gives me a financial return, now it frees me up to be able to do other things, whether it's volunteering in the community, taking that trip with family. Because my gosh, if we didn't learn anything over the last few years of the pandemic, we have to learn that time is time is short. It's
That's all
so
we
precious.
have.
It's all we have. And so just being able to think about money in a different way. Growing up as a kid, money was the thing that we used to pay for the items that we need.
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, let's use money. Yes, I need it to pay my mortgage and I needed to buy food, but also let's take it and set some aside so that we help someone else be able to do things so that they can make a contribution to our society because we all need each other to be at our absolute best. Let me set the money aside so that maybe I don't have to work as much. So that frees me up to mentor or go and be with that family member when they're going through that medical procedure and they need someone there to hold their hand and to know that I don't have to worry about, okay, if I take this time off of work and I don't have as much this pay period as I had the last pay period, will it be okay?
Yeah.
Will I be okay?
Nice. Nice. That's really good. I didn't realize the thing about time that came across, but time is like the thing. And being able to know that working the way we work, we all know burnout is like gigantic in the medical profession,
Absolutely.
gigantic. And I believe one of those reasons is that we're in it, we take on all the debt to get there, and I can't do anything else. I gotta keep
Yeah.
doing this. I can't take time off. I can't do this. I can't do this because I've got all this money.
Yeah.
Talking to somebody who said, "You guys are doctors. You make a lot of money." It's like, yeah, but we have to keep doing doctor to make that money. You can't not
Yeah.
do that. It's like, it just becomes
Yeah.
a thing.
Yeah.
And when you don't want to do it anymore and you have to keep doing it, it takes a toll on you.
It does. It
It's
does.
Yeah, and that is my wish, is that we all had money coming from somewhere else so that we can take the time we need to take care of ourselves. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
What it what does retirement look like to you?
I don't know. It's hard. And I think the reason why it's hard is because I have a number of friends. So I believe in having friends from all generations
Yeah.
because if everyone that's in the boat with me is in the same stage of life, how do we know where we're
Give
going?
how we give
How are we going to move forward? Like we have reached the ceiling of our knowledge, right? So I believe in having friends that are in different stages of life. And I like the joke with my friends, they are my retired friends.
Yeah.
And some of my friends have failed retirement miserably. And the reason why I say they failed, because within 4 months of them, quote unquote, retiring, they have found another job. So I would say that retirement for me looks like getting to a point in life where the primary function, and for me, being a gynecologist and doing the complex surgery that I do, retirement for me looks like, okay, today's the day that I am deciding that I don't have to come in here and do this
Right.
Monday through Friday and some days on Saturday just to keep money
Yeah.
coming in to pay my bills. Retirement to me is being able to say, you know what, I want to take a step back from this so that maybe I can go and do something else. Maybe I want to teach that new GYN surgeon that's coming
Yeah.
fresh out of
Yeah.
fellowship. I want to coach them. And so I'm going to quote unquote retire from being a surgeon and maybe become a coach. I think growing up, we thought of retirement as just what you did when you turned 60 or 65, because that was the age that you
Agree.
could start
Yes.
collecting Social Security.
Yep.
And that's what I saw, and that's what I thought it was, but now that I'm kinda out and meeting and talking with people, I'm like, "No, retirement is when you decide, I don't wanna go in and do this job every single day,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I wanna have some freedom, and if I wanna work a little bit, yeah, I'll go work or I'll do this thing, or if I
Yeah.
wanna travel, I'm gonna travel." So, yeah, I've got some role models and some friends, and I mean, they make it look good. I mean, they're traveling. They're spending 6 or 8 weeks in Hawaii. They're going to Europe for 2, 3 weeks at a time, and I'm like, "If this is what retirement is like, I need to know
I
what you all
can play this game.
can play this game." But, yeah, but they all find themselves at some point or another maybe doing something else very similar to what their career
Yeah.
was, and
Yeah.
so it's having the freedom to
Yeah.
make some choices to say, "I don't wanna go work today. Today is Saturday."
I love it. I love it. I think I almost don't even like the word anymore, retirement,
Yeah.
because it does bring on this sitting on the bank fishing picture that does anybody do that anymore?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, no, I don't
No.
think it's like, no. I have a friend, I like you like friends in different generations. I got a lot of younger friends, a lot of older friends, and one of my older guys says, "It's rewirement, not retirement. You just
Mm.
rewire and you're doing something different and you're just thinking about things differently." I love that he does that.
Yeah.
Okay, one more question, Jessica. What would you like other women physicians to know about investing?
Well, it's not nearly as scary as everyone makes it seem. It's like television and all these financial talking heads make
Yeah,
it seem.
yeah.
I guess if we think about it in terms of medicine, just like in medicine, there are different specialties, and some specialties are great for some and not so much for others. I feel like the thing about investing and in making investments is that there's so many different opportunities and so many places and areas that you can invest. And finding the area that works best for you. Finding an area where you feel like, okay, I'm comfortable with this. I'm comfortable with the risk tolerance that I can take here.
Mhm.
I feel good about this, but about another area. I know some people who don't put their money at all into the stock market. They only put it into real estate. And I know
Mhm.
others who are just like, gosh, I wouldn't dare want to do real estate. I want to put it in the stocks. Okay,
Mhm.
whatever you're comfortable with for
Mhm.
us. And so for all those women physician out there who are just like, I don't know if I can do this, you totally can. You made it through medical school. You made it through residency.
Residency, yes.
You can do this. You can figure this out. And just like you had people guiding you along the way, there are people out there that will help guide you along the way when it comes to making the investment. So don't be afraid. Give it a try and do it. And you would be surprised at what's going to happen on the other end.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jessica. I appreciate your time. This was Yeah, I always love talking to you, and we'll probably talk some more after we get off the line. But thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, sharing
Thank you.
everything.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right.
You've been listening to Money with Mission. There are projects happening right now where you can have a great financial return while positively affecting the lives of others. To learn more about our opportunities, go to moneywithmission.com.